So it's been over a year since Palworld was released across multiple gaming platforms, and it was probably one of the biggest games of 2024. The game came out back in January of last year, and it's something that set the gaming world ablaze because a lot of people were stunned by various aspects of it, including its visuals, its gameplay, and a lot of people felt like that the developers Pocket Pair was paying homage to Pokemon with like its creature designs and I guess its gameplay to some extent. And it's something that Nintendo really didn't take too kindly to. And it eventually led to Nintendo suing, the developers of Palworld as a result. And I believe the suit took place back in September of last year, and in November of last year, Pocket Pair had to make gameplay changes. Which a lot of people were really unhappy of. You couldn't summon monsters anymore, and a lot of people were bummed by that because it was something that added to the overall quality of the game itself. So apparently, you can't use a Pal Spear to summon a creature in Pal World anymore, and I believe like the whole thing is still going through like litigation as we speak. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people feel like if Palworld didn't become as popular as it did and didn't make as much money as it did, Nintendo probably wouldn't have said anything or done anything or what have you. But what happened happened, and we do know that more changes are going to be, coming along with Palworld and its gameplay features in the future. But this really raises the question of whether or not Nintendo was like really petty and did they, ruin Palworld for millions of players around the world as a result. Well, I mean, obviously, Power World drew a lot of inspiration from Pokemon, and you look at the creatures and all that stuff. They do look identical to that of Pokemon, but at the same time, you can't look at specific creatures and be like, "Oh, this creature's a spitting image of a specific Pokemon from." Multiple generations of different games and I guess the Palspear doesn't really look like a Pokemon or a Pokeball, but at the same time, the concept is pretty much the same, and and yeah, like the whole idea of summoning creatures and all that stuff. But you look at both Pokemon and you look at Power World, you have you have two different genres. Like Pokemon historically has been an RPG. Power World is more of a survival, action adventure, shooter type of game. And a lot of people feel like Power World is something that Pokemon should have eventually evolved into, or it's something that Pokemon could have um, could have been in terms of being a spin-off series, but Nintendo never decided to go that route because they never really focused on, shooter, genre type of games or anything like that until I guess Splatoon from 2015 onwards. But yeah, it just I don't know. I feel like there's like small gameplay elements of Power World that's somewhat similar to that of um, Pokemon. And like I said, it was inspired by that. But nowadays, you have to be really, really careful about, stuff like that. And I guess drawing inspiration from, I guess, more popular franchises of the past. And honestly, this is something that does not surprise me because Nintendo are really like, they're really tight and they're really picky about a lot of stuff. They're, they're really, really like picky about piracy because I believe there was like a lawsuit with Nintendo against like some type of organization or company that was pirating Switch games or something like that. And and yeah, I mean, just like, Nintendo for the most part, they're really strict. And it doesn't really surprise me that the whole thing with Palworld had happened, but, but yeah, I mean, Palworld was something that a lot of people liked, and they felt like, "You know what? This is probably going to be like the T-rated version of Pokemon, or this is like, Pokemon for adults or what have you," but, Nintendo's like, "Yeah, that's not cool. The stuff you're doing, even though it's something that caught on like wildfire. At the same time, you know, you can't, you can't take our concepts um and our ideas and twist it and try to make money off it and all that stuff. And as a result, we're putting our foot down and saying, yeah, this isn't cool. We're going to squash this, what have you. But you got to realize that gaming companies nowadays are really, really greedy. They're more about money, more so than ever now. And in fact, a lot of gaming companies they're more about money than they are about service and all that. And I feel like that's a trend that has been going on in gaming for the past couple of years or so. And a lot of people feel like that's one of the reasons why um I don't know, many people are not as obsessed with gaming nowadays as they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And and that being said, a lot of people wonder whether or not this whole thing with Nintendo and Pocket Pair in relation to Power World is going to have a negative effect on Pokemon Legends Z through A, which is supposed to be coming out later this year on a date that has yet to be revealed. Well, the thing about Pokemon is that it mainly appeals to children than it does to casuals, because I remember about 20, 25 years ago, Pokemon was like a cultural phenomenon, and everybody was talking about it. And you had like toys and like in like fast food restaurants, whether it be McDonald's or Burger King. It was something that was really, really popular back in the day. I don't think Pokemon is nearly as big as it once was during its apex. And and I feel like the last time like Pokemon was like culturally relevant, in my opinion, was like back in 2016 when Pokemon Go was a thing, because that was back when it was getting like mainstream attention and coverage and all that stuff. And there were also scandals that, involved the Pokemon Go game and everything. But at the same time, like the Pokemon games like still do really well in terms of sales. A lot of people weren't too crazy about Violet Scarlet, which came out not too long ago. But at the same time, yeah, I feel like Pokemon Legends Z3A will still sell millions on the Nintendo Switch. Um, I think it's supposed to be on the Switch too as well. So I still think like that game is going to do a good number because it mainly appeals to kids opposed to young adults. Because if Pokemon mainly catered to young adults, I feel like this whole thing with Power World would definitely end up hurting its overall sales. But at the same time, the sales for this game could end up being hurt regardless because of the tariffs that's supposed to be set in place. And obviously the cost of gaming like on just about every console is going to increase as a result, and it's going to make people think twice about spending immediately opposed to just like waiting like a year or so to buy the game or what have you. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like this suit against Pal World is something that could, that can help like draw interest to Pokemon Legends C through A. But but I don't know, man. It's in a lot of people's eyes, it's not like really a good look for Nintendo. But a lot of people are still going to buy their games. Consumers are still going to go out of their way to buy the Switch too, and just about every game that comes out on it from this year forwards or what have you. But yeah, I honestly feel like The thing with Palworld and Nintendo, it sucks, but I mean, for those who have been longtime fans of Nintendo, or for those who have been like following them for years, you guys already know how Nintendo is. You know how strict and how picky they can be, and yeah, it's not like Nintendo prevented the developers from making millions or anything like that, and I honestly feel like it's a shame that this happened, because I heard the budget for Pal World was somewhere around the ballpark of like $6.7 million, and if that is the case, then it seems like a lot of the money that the developers made, it's not really going to matter too much. And I feel like the changes, made in the game is going to have a negative impact on its marketability and its replay value and all that other stuff. But, it is what it is. Um, we're most likely going to get more updates on this whole, issue between, Nintendo and developers of Power World in the future. Um, so far, there hasn't been any like settlement or anything like that between the two parties, at least not to my knowledge. Hopefully, we'll get more insight and more details as to what the situation is between Pocket Pair and Nintendo later in 2025.